Welcome to the Game Awards 2023 LEGO edition. It's been a pretty crazy year for video games this year, and tragically it's been one of the first years in a long time where I haven't found the time to engage in all the big releases. Geoff announced the nominees just a few days ago as of recording this, and if all goes well, this should be releasing just a few days before the ceremony. In this showcase I'll be covering what I feel are the big releases of the Game Awards nominees, plus a few other games to help spread out that list. Let me know what you would do differently down in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe to help support this channel. Here you can see every minifigure that we'll be using in the making of this series. A lot of minifigures are used to make these characters. A few parts are made available on multiple figures, but some are exclusive unfortunately, and some are very hard to find nowadays. I also made sure to never include the same piece twice so that way we could have all figures together at once. We will be going through the Game of the Year nominees alphabetically and then in order of nominations for the last few games. First up though, we need our host for the evening. For Geoff here, I use Lex Luthor from the 2012 DC line, Superman from the 2018 DC line, and Hawkeye from the latest MCU Disney Plus CMF series. Superman's head is attached onto Luthor's body, and then we give him Hawkeye's hair. And just like that, we have our gracious host for the evening. Looking forward to those world premieres, Geoff.
The nominees for Game of the Year at the Game Awards are Alan Wake 2, developed by Remedy Entertainment.
Alan Wake 2 has a total of 8 nominations this year, with Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Audio Design, Best Performance Melanie Liburd as Saga Anderson, and Best Action Adventure Game. It's a huge feat for the team at Remedy. I decided on making both Alan and Saga, given that the performance nomination is for Saga, but the game is named on Alan, so we get both here. Now for Alan, we use Michael Scott from the Office set, Joey Tribbiani from the Friends Central Perk set, Sheikah Ma from the Prince of Persia Ostrich Race set, Loki from the Marvel CMF series, and Indiana Jones from the 2023 release sets. I believe the Michael Scott parts might be exclusive, the Sheikah Ma part definitely is unfortunately, but there are always some nice substitutes that you can get elsewhere. We start with Michael Scott and we remove his head and his hairpiece. I give him Joey Tribbiani's bag and Sheikah Ma's face with that worried expression. Loki's hairpiece makes for a really good style for him, and I also gave him Indiana Jones's revolver as his accessory. Alan has a very specific suit in the game, and while the Michael Scott one isn't exactly one-to-one, it is all that I currently have in my collection. I think that the face works really well for that resting look that he always has throughout the game. It also had that specific facial hair that I really wanted, and I think Loki's hair works perfectly for him. For Saga Anderson, I'm using 2 different Harry Potter minifigures, the one from the CMF series 2, and the one from sets like the Night Bus and Hagrid's Hut. That torso does appear in a ton of other sets though. I'm using Amber Grant from the Daily Bugle set for her head. Her head is not exclusive though, it's the Zendaya MJ figure. King Valkyrie from the Love and Thunder sets for that hairpiece, also not exclusive, and Shaggy from the Dimension series for that flashlight piece. I take the CMF Harry's legs and the other Harry's torso, Amber's head and the Valkyrie hairpiece, and the flashlight as her accessory. Saga wears her FBI jacket in the game with the navy blue color scheme, while here we have the accurate color scheme, but LEGO don't actually have a jacket with the word FBI printed on it. The hairpiece is also accurate, but it is too long towards the end there. LEGO haven't quite reached the full range for this type of hairstyle in my opinion. That is Alan and Saga together. I really do like this duo together, despite the lack of parts. I think they both came out really well. One of the better customs here in the video.
Baldur's Gate 3 from Larian Studios.
Baldur's Gate 3 is another huge entry this year, also with 8 nominations. Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Score and Music, Best Performance Neil Newbin as Astarion, Best Community Support, Best RPG, and Best Multiplayer. It was really hard to pick just one character to represent Baldur's Gate 3, but the easy solution for me was to pick the performance category. For Astarion, I'll be using Doctor Strange from any of the latest releases really, Gimli and Legolas both from the 2012 LEGO Lord of the Rings line, and Doc Brown from the LEGO Dimensions releases. I'm using the Good Doctor's legs and Gimli's torso, very carefully removing it though so to not damage that brittle 2012 figure. I'm using Legolas's face and weapon, and finally Doc Brown's hairpiece. There are plenty of better ways to make this character, this is just what I had on hand. He should be a lot more pale really, but parts like that don't actually exist. The hair does match in its color scheme, but that style is just kind of all over the place. I think that torso works for the setting at the very least, but he's definitely one that I think has much better improvements to be made.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac Games.
Spider-Man 2 is the big anticipated sequel to Insomniac's 2018 game, and I'm guessing it might be the most popular choice here, especially within the LEGO community. Insomniac's sequel boasts 7 nominations total: Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Audio Design, Best Performance Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker Spider-Man, Innovation and Accessibility, and Best Action Adventure. As most LEGO people probably know, there already exists a Spider-Man PlayStation figure in the form of Comic-Con exclusive exclusives. This is a choice that I still hate to this day, and I was going to just use a default figure here, but I think I figured something out. I'm going to be using the CMF series of Spider-Man as his base foundation build, and the 2020 release of Miles Morales. But if you do have that 2023 Morbius set, that figure is almost 1-to-1 for the game representation, so if you have that, there's no need to have to customize this guy. If you do need to make a custom figure like I do though, we'll start with Miles, simply remove his hands and swap over Peter's red hands. Done. Printed legs would also be really great, but I just don't have the time right now. For the advanced suit, I'm going to be using Spider-Girl from the Web Warriors Bridge set. Unfortunately, it is an exclusive torso, but it's much cheaper than the Comic-Con one, I promise. I'm going to still use those CMF series legs though, because I love those details included. Removing the head and arms from the torso, because those parts we will also be using from the CMF figure, but the hands we will be keeping from Spider-Girl because the white hands just look amazing to me. Give him the CMF Spider-Man mask, here is our discount version of the advanced suit. But to really sell the design from Spider-Man 2 and distract you from the low details of that torso, we need to make the spider arms part. You will likely find your own better version of this, but for me, I had to use the parts that could only be found on minifigures specifically, not in sets, because as of recording this, I have no access to my sets whatsoever, just all of my minifigures. But it's proof that you can do it with just minifigures. I'm using Doc Ock from the Daily Bugle, the Robo DJ from the LEGO video sets, and the Mauser droid from the Ninja Turtles line. I start by removing those hands from Doc Ock because we're going to need all 4 of them to match in color. I then take the 2 legs from the Mauser droid because they match the 2 that are already on the Robo DJ, swap out those hands that he has attached and replace them all with the silver ones from Doc Ock. And here we have a pretty okay attempt at the spider arms. There are much better parts to be used, but again, these are all parts that you can find on just minifigures, not actually included in sets themselves. I'm really satisfied with the 2 of these guys actually. Obvious improvements needed to be made. The Miles from the Morbius set is much better than this custom one here. It's the best Miles minifigure that I think LEGO has ever made. The Spider-Man works for what I needed it to do for the sake of this video, but the Comic-Con one, it's just amazing, obviously. Why did they have to make it just a Comic-Con release? I really hoped that by now we would have seen some sets, given the relationship that LEGO has with both Marvel and Sony, especially after the Horizon Zero Dawn set, but here I am still waiting. Maybe someday.
Resident Evil 4 from Capcom.
Capcom's mega hit remake of Resident Evil 4 netted them 3 nominations this year: Game of the Year, Best Audio Design, and Best Action Adventure. I was pretty excited to be making a Leon Kennedy, and I think he came out pretty well with a couple of minor changes that could be made. I'm using Finn from The Last Jedi for his legs. Unfortunately, I do think they are exclusive. I'm using Indiana Jones from the 2023 sets, specifically the ones with his gloves, Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, and Professor Lupin from the Hogwarts Express set, or any other set that includes that hairpiece. I use Finn's legs because he's got the really cool holster, and the Indiana Jones torso has those gloves. Perfect. I really like that facial expression that Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne has here, and I like that style of the hairpiece. And here we have Leon. Leon does have blonde hair in the games, but it's kind of a dirty blonde, and it's a color that LEGO haven't really nailed in my opinion. I saw a lot of people using brown hair pieces for their customs, so I just decided to go with it. It also kind of adds a little bit more of a darker HD remake look, so I think it works.
Super Mario Bros. Wonder from Nintendo.
Nintendo came out swinging this year with their family game and scored 5 nominations total: Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Art Direction, Best Family Game, and Best Multiplayer. And making a LEGO Mario was the easiest one to make actually, because a perfect LEGO Mario already exists. Why would I bother making a new one?
And The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom from Nintendo.
Nintendo came out swinging this year with their teen audience game, scoring another 5 nominations: Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Action Adventure Game. Now, Legend of Zelda has been a contender for the most desired LEGO theme for years now, so there's plenty of custom ideas online. Thing is though, Link needs such specific parts that I just don't think any of the customs really do that brand justice. So keep that in mind here, because I tried with what little I had. I'm going to be using a lot of different people here. We've got that Steve Irwin conservationist figure from the CMF line, Obi-Wan from the Kenobi show, it's that Inquisitor set, Hydra Man from that Spider-Man Far From Home set, Luke Skywalker from his land speeder just for his face, which shouldn't be an exclusive piece surely, and Old Man Luke from his Arc 2 training set. I'm using Steve Irwin's legs for the details and the colours, Obi-Wan's torso and cape, replacing his arm and swapping it out for Hydra Man's arm, and then giving him Luke Skywalker's head and replacing his hair for Luke Skywalker. He looks fine, but wait, there is more, because now I'm going to show you how you can make the famed Master Sword. I have here Peter Venkman from the Ghostbusters Ecto 1 set, Mrs. Puff from the SpongeBob line, and the King George soldier from the On Stranger Tides Pirates of the Caribbean set, as well as a Praetorian Guard from the Battle Pack that released some years ago. These parts are not exclusive, they are all available in other forms, not to worry. These just happen to be available on minifigures. I take that black lightsaber hilt from Peter Venkman and I add Mrs. Puff's stud at the end for some blue colouring. I want it to match the top of the handle piece. We can use the shoulder pads from the soldier, flip them upside down so that these sections here are pointing outwards, and then we can take that sword from the Praetorian Guard and we can insert that into the saber. The Master Sword here looks pretty cool to me actually. Link was one of the hardest ones to make because on paper I think it totally works, but like I said, I'm not satisfied with this overall. Link needs some very specific molded parts that just aren't quite available to us yet. Now I'm hoping that someday we can get something that's Zelda related in LEGO. What with the new Animal Crossing sets coming out and Mario is still sticking around, maybe LEGO has a much more successful relationship with Nintendo than they do with Sony. That's it for our Game of the Year nominees. We now move on to the other games that have been nominated in other categories. Hi-Fi Rush was a really great smaller-ish release title that came out at the beginning of the year for Xbox. I really wish this managed to squeeze in for the 6 Game of the Year slots personally, but it did manage to at least score a really great 5 nominations. We have Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Audio Design, Best Action Game, and Innovation in Accessibility. So naturally, I really wanted to make Chai, who I thought would translate really well into LEGO and stand out amongst this crowd. We have here a lot of minifigures to go over. Yeesh. Macy from the Jurassic World Dominion sets and Darius from the Jurassic World animated show sets, Petunia Pig from the Looney Tunes CMF series, and this Robo DJ figure here from the CMF line. The arm is not exclusive to him, that's just what we need him for. We have the Monkey King figure here at the back, also from the LEGO CMF line, Robin from the LEGO Batman movie Scuttler set, Buzz Lightyear from the Lightyear sets for his hairpiece, more on that in a sec though, Marty McFly from the LEGO Dimensions Wave, and the Witch from the best CMF series ever, the Halloween Series 14 one. Macy I'm using because she has those exact pants that I was wanting. Darius has this really great yellow jacket torso. Hey, try googling LEGO yellow jacket and see how easy it is for some results. Thanks Marvel. Petunia Pig has a great yellow shirt sleeve that we need, and the Robo Guy also has that cool arm. I think it's the first custom figure I've made where I've had to change both arms. I'm using the Monkey King figure's cape, and then I'm using Robin's head with that big expression. Marty McFly's guitar accessory works really well for Chai, and the final inclusion here is the black cat from the Witch to represent 808. Chai's hair in the game is really distinct. If you wanted to, I have here Anakin and Jay for a couple of other options. To some degrees, I think all 3 of these work, but none of them really bring it all the way home for me. It's a very specific look that I don't think LEGO has quite captured. Regardless, Chai ended up being one of my favorites here of the entire line. I think the colors work really well against the rest of these characters, and the game itself really won me over in the end, so this was one of the more fun ones for me to make. We all remember how Cyberpunk went down, at least at its release, but a few updates here and there, a newly released DLC and a redemption arc later, it looks like CD Projekt Red have really managed to turn themselves around. They were even able to net themselves 4 nominations: Best Narrative, Best Performance, Idris Elba as Solomon Reed, Best Ongoing Game, and Best Community Support. So, like the others, Idris Elba's character of Solomon Reed made for a very easy choice for who should be put here to represent the game. For Solomon, I'm using Black Widow from those 2020 Avengers sets, Michael Knight from the Knight Rider pack from the LEGO Dimensions waves, Phastos from the Eternal sets, and Rekka from the Bad Batch shuttle. I use Black Widow's legs here and Michael Knight's torso, which gives him a really cool cyberpunk themed outfit, using Phastos' head and hairpiece, and I give him Rekka's gun. And here we have Solomon Reed. Cyberpunk 2077 is the type of licensing deal that LEGO will just never go for in a million years. It's too controversial, you'll have too many complaining adults, so these customs are the best that we'll ever get for this community. I would love to someday make a collection of my favorite sci-fi characters in minifigure form. I think he works really well for the game representation here. The 16th mainline entry in one of the longest lasting franchises ever, Square Enix were greeted to 4 nominations for Final Fantasy XVI. Best Narrative, Best Score and Music, Best Performance, Ben Starr as Clive Rosfeld, and Best RPG. Final Fantasy XVI seems to be the biggest contender right now amongst gamers for snubs. The performance nom made this for a very easy inclusion. Now for Clive, I'm using a lot of minifigures again. War Machine from that Civil War airport set, Ironheart from the Black Panther Wakanda Forever warship set, the same Black Widow figure here but for a different piece, and 3 Star Wars figures in a row: Mandalorian, this Inquisitor guy from the Ahsoka show, and Kanan Jarrus for his headpiece, which is a headpiece that I've used for multiple different figures now. The vampire guitarist from the LEGO video line, just the hairpiece, it's available in a lot of sets, don't worry, and Aragorn from the LEGO Lord of the Rings, that sword is also used in a lot of different sets, don't worry too much. I'm taking War Machine's legs and adding on Ironheart's torso. I'm then removing her head and her arms. The arms I will take from the Black Widow figure, Mandalorian's cape will go on that neck piece, followed by the armor piece from the Inquisitor, Kanan's face with the vampire guitarist's hairpiece, and Aragorn's sword for some accessory. Now despite having not played Final Fantasy XVI, personally this might be my favorite figure here. I think his armor piece works really well to represent his look, and I also got to use one of my favorite LEGO hairpieces. You'd be surprised at how tricky it is to find a licensed head with a goatee like this, honestly. Lies of P is the strange, interesting Souls-like game that was based on the story of Pinocchio. It received 2 nominations here with Best RPG and Best Art Direction. And the game is very different enough from all of the others to warrant a place for me. For Pinocchio, I'm using the James Norrington figure from the Pirates of the Caribbean line, Tech from the Bad Batch Shuttle, Loki again from the same CMF series, Phyllis from the Office set, and Blackbeard also from the Pirates of the Caribbean line. The James Norrington figure is great. I use all of him besides his head and hairpiece. I also take out his hand and replace it with text. It should be the entire arm, but that brittle 2012 minifigure curse really strikes again. I'm not willing to break my minifigure for these videos. I'm using Loki's head here because I really do like that expression, and Phyllis's hairpiece, which should be in black, but I don't own that piece unfortunately. I'm then using Blackbeard's sword here so that he has an interesting Souls-like weapon to use on his enemies. I think this came together quite nicely. The obvious improvement is the color swap for the hairpiece for me. I would also like to have an accurate arm selected, but the arm was breaking on my Norrington figure. Just can't risk it, sorry. Star Wars Jedi Survivor was also another big blockbuster release this year, and another desired era for the LEGO Star Wars fans. We've all said countless times that we really want sets and a legitimate Cal Kestis minifigure already. There were 2 nominations for this game, Best Performance, Cameron Monaghan as Cal Kestis, and Best Action Adventure Game. So the performance nom, again, the easy contender here as usual. For an older Cal Kestis figure, I am using the 2023 Indiana Jones minifigure, Bucky Barnes from the Disney Plus Marvel CMF series, Obi-Wan from the Mustafar Duel set, and BD-1 from the Mando Starfighter set. I'm also using Thor from the 2020 Avengers sets. Indiana Jones has that great holster piece that can be used, and Bucky has this amazing torso that I just think is dead on to how he looks in the game. I swap out the arms and I use Obi-Wan's instead, which also include that lightsaber. Hey, how about that? I use Thor's head for that bearded look, and I swap over the hairpiece from Obi-Wan's. Be sure to add BD-1 to the scene, and now we have our older Cal Kestis. I was really concerned about this one originally actually, because the face needed to be a lot different here, and the hairpiece as well is the complete opposite, and I personally never really played Cal looking like this, but I do really like this minifigure. I can only imagine hopefully how good the official LEGO Cal Kestis would look if LEGO decided to make sets based on these games. That's it from me for the Game Awards 2023 in LEGO. Best of luck to all the nominees, including Black Salt Games for Dredge. Doing your country proud, guys. Congratulations to everyone involved. Would you have improved these minifigures at all? Which ones did I leave out? If you enjoyed the showcase of the Game Awards nominees and you would like to see more, liking and subscribing does help to support this channel in making more videos like this. Ka kite ano.